Hey everyone, welcome. I'm very pleased to have Annemarie Gubanski with us today. She is the founder and is it officially CEO from Taktikon, or your official title?
Yeah, the official title is
So
CEO.
Annemarie, very welcome. Thank you for having us and making some time.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure. Really.
Well, as you can see, both from our home office recording, trying to make the best out of this. Annemarie prepared some slides and had some interesting statistics, and I would say, Annemarie, take it away, and I'll probably have some questions along the way for you.
Okay, yeah, well, interrupt me anytime that you want. As said, I have some slides and found some statistics. I work from home in Stockholm, and yeah, as I'm not really traveling to the Benelux that often as I want to, I found some Sweden-based statistics. One of them I thought was quite interesting. I found that in the newspaper last Monday, where they made a comparison to the change in mobility compared to the beginning of the year, and then they took it from the first time that Corona started to come into our lives. And what you can see is actually that from the Nordic countries, Sweden has the least of mobility problems right now. So the decrease is the least, and the mobility trends it's in all it's quite broad. So they included museum, hotel, bars, and restaurants, which are still open in Sweden, but also like amusement parks and so on. Now, Sweden has, as said, the least restrictions, so they decreased by 24%. Finland is also not so very restrictive. Denmark and mostly Norway. Norway immediately closed off the borders. You see that immediately also in the numbers. Of course, if you compare it to Italy and Spain, mobility is just immediately dropped down, but nobody is allowed to go anywhere. So you see that the level of restrictions actually does have a big impact on mobility from our guests.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll see that in the next slides in the occupancy and then the statistics
Sure.
for hotels, right?
Yeah. We will. I got some interesting statistics from Benchmarking Alliance. And you can say Benchmarking Alliance is very active in the Scandinavian countries and in the Baltics. That's the benchmarking system that we use here.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent me some occupancy and RevPAR and ADR statistics for Scandinavia. And you can see there actually, if you look at the whole from the beginning of March to the beginning of April, so this is numbers that I received from them last Monday. You see actually that Stockholm and Helsinki, their decrease in occupancy was not as steep as in Copenhagen and Oslo. So we had 72 to 73% less occupancy, when in Oslo and Copenhagen it went down to 82, 83%.
That compares
And that
nicely with
also,
the sorry, that compares nicely with the stats earlier that you said,
it
hey, the
does, doesn't it?
mobility in
Yeah.
these countries is more, so occupancy
Yeah.
drops a little less.
Yeah, and it's as expected, I think, because we feel that we still can move around a little bit more, and then you can see in absolutely you can see that in the occupancy rate. But it's, you need to understand that here are also, this is also the beginning of March included, and then the decrease in occupancy wasn't really as steep as what it was later on.
Yeah, and
So.
about the
Mm.
travelers, there is a little bit of occupancy left. Who is traveling these days? I feel everybody is locked in their home. Who who is still out there traveling, and what type of traveler is that, or do you think it is?
Yeah, in Scandinavia, we need to generalize this a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, because I mean there's a number of different kinds of properties out there, but in Scandinavia it's the Scandinavians, and you can see that everywhere in Europe everybody is staying quite close at home. So the bit of occupancy that we see is usually inbound. So Benelux stays in Benelux, Scandinavia stays in Scandinavia,
Yeah,
Germany also in Germany.
gotcha.
Yeah, and that I think is quite logic also, because a lot of countries they are very restrictive on in letting outsiders into their country. Um, We see also that the occupancy for the hotels with nice restaurants or the destination hotels, they see a lot of occupancy during they see some occupancy still during the weekends.
Yeah. So it's local demand actually filling that. Yeah. Gotcha.
It is. Yeah.
So I'm sure this has also, the occupancy drop has some impact on the ADRs and RevPAR. I think the next slide we're looking at is the RevPAR changes happening, same source from Benchmark Alliance and the same cities. That's quite a big drop for the markets as well.
It is, and also here, I mean, if we're going to compare statistics for maybe the last 2 weeks, that you see that it's like 90% less. But then here you can see Stockholm and Helsinki reasonably, so their decrease in RevPAR is about 75%, and then you see that Copenhagen and Oslo is
more, yeah,
going down more. But actually, what I think interesting in this is maybe seeing what happened to the ADR.
Yeah. Yeah, and I noticed that I had to double check the figures when you send them, but I noticed that both Copenhagen and Helsinki are actually increasing. What's happening there?
Yeah, well, it's very difficult for me to say because if you talk to the hotels in Copenhagen and Helsinki, they are complaining about competitors that are dumping rates.
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall they've been very, very good at maintaining a stable ADR. I think also if you look at all the 4 cities, they actually have a reasonable ADR still. They didn't go to 50% discounts.
Yeah.
We see that especially then in Stockholm, the first reaction of the few hotels was, "What, go down immediately?"
Yeah.
But then they found out also, like, it's not going to help me that much.
So making that bridge from the situation right now and everybody's anxious, what's coming next? You prepared some slides on the kind of the status of leisure and corporate travel on the short and long term. So can you talk us through what you think will happen and on the leisure side? Let's start off with that.
Yeah. Well, this is my assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what I personally think is going to happen, but you will see that there will be a different mix during this summer. So we can expect the US and the APEC countries to diminish. US is right now in the middle of the virus outburst, and it's going to take them some time, I think. So they're probably not going to travel to Europe, and Europe is probably not going to travel to them. Same as in Asia, actually, where it all started. They're probably going to stay quite close at home, and I think that the travel to Europe might be cancelled. But on the other hand, what you then see is that the guest mix is going to change. So I think what we said before, the inbound, the guests are going to stay close at home, and this is traditionally the ones that stayed close to home, stayed in Europe. Were usually a bit of the price sensitive guests, if we generalize them right now. But I think that all the guests that have been wanting to book their luxury holidays or their holidays quite far from Europe, they're going to stay at home as well. And I think there you will see that's the luxury hotels. Instead of the US market, they're going to get the inbound market. So there's a different type of guests going to travel within Europe.
Yeah.
And I think that occupancy will be somewhat less, but then ADR will be impacted by this mix of travelers. But we still need to make sure that we don't have that many restrictions out there, so that we capture really the demand that is out there for us.
Yeah. Maintaining that flexibility is something that's mentioned very often. Like, hey, if the sentiment changes a little bit and we feel more comfortable, allow them to book, but maintain that flexibility to cancel or to postpone in case something changes again. And on the business side, any predictions for that? I know predictions are always tough, but let's look what you What's your
Yeah,
thought?
well, I think corporate companies are not going to release their travel restrictions that fast, and that also it's like it comes in just now beginning of summer where corporate isn't really traveling that much.
Yeah.
So I think we can expect that to come back after summer. And I think what is very, very, very important here is that travel managers are probably going to ask you to lower your rate because they're going to say like, hey, if you do that, you can still get some of the business and so on. You know how difficult we have it. And usually hotels have been following suit. Like previous recessions, you see that hotels were very open to say, you know what, I give you a bit of a discount. I'd say don't. Keep it to the level you have now, or preferably increase because your costs are also going to go higher, and it's not going to increase corporate travel. It's still going to be a lot of corporate travel because people need to meet and need to see each other and meet each other, but it's going to be in a different extent. And what we always say in corporate accounts, please stick to maybe one or two room types because you want to be able to restrict when you see that demand is all of a sudden very high, and we might expect a high demand during autumn because everything that was booked in the beginning of the year that is being postponed to September, October. So we can expect quite a few days of high demand still.
Yeah.
And I think also important is that you make sure that you get your focus on the GDSs. I always think that a lot of hotels are very OTA driven. They need to keep an eye on the GDSs.
All right. Well, it's all to be seen as this all unfolds, and
Of
hopefully
course.
we can catch up in a couple weeks and see how the predictions, or a couple months, how the predictions actually moved, came out, or what happened. Always a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for your insights. And for now, stay safe and stay inside. Although less inside than we have to do here in the Netherlands.
Yeah, you too.
All
And
right.
that is to all of you that have been looking at this video.
All right.
Stay safe.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
you're welcome.